Since the beginning of time, there has been one thing that mankind has wanted to do. One desire that is so great, we have tried countless times to achieve it. One question all of great philosophers have asked themselves. What if we could go really fast? It shouldn't be a surprise to you that one of the most popular things in video games is going fast. Games about speeding through areas have existed for years at this point. The fact that a blue hedgehog with red sneakers, whose main gimmick is going fast, happens to be one of gaming's biggest mascots should say it all. People like going fast. People like me. Now, I've found that I have a hard time describing what kind of games I like to play. People will say, what is the thing that you enjoy in video games, Gecko? And I will simply say, I enjoy it when games are awesome and cool and awesome and cool. And they get very confused on what I mean. Something I've grown to love is the feeling of going fast. Any video game that puts me in the driver's seat and makes me go 1,000,000 miles per hour scratches a specific itch in my brain. And while I already have a lot of video games that get it right, I'm always hungry for the next one to really wow me. The next game to really scratch that itch. Make me feel like I'm hitting my foot on the gas. Just me, my Honda Civic, the school zone, and the 150 miles an hour I'm about to hit that kid with. And thankfully for me, I've found a game that gives me that feeling. There's no cars in it, no speed limits, and no pedestrians in the way, but it definitely scratches that itch just in the right place. So, let's talk about my new favorite speed game, aka Haste. But first, Gamer Subs. It's really good. I drink it every day. It's got no sugar in it, so you don't get that crash once the caffeine wears off. If you use my code HE'sGecking at checkout, you get 10% off, and you also help me. If energy drinks aren't your style, you can still get non-caffeinated versions of the drinks, so you can try out amazing flavors. So, what are you waiting for? Use code HE'sGecking over at gamersubs.gg to get 10% off of any order you want. Thank you, Gamersubs, once again for the continued support. You guys have been a lifesaver recently. And let's get back to Haste. So what is this game? Well, Haste is a roguelike platformer where the goal is to run super fast. Your speed is momentum-based. Depending on how you land after a jump will increase your speed relative to how fast you were falling and how steep the landing was. The general gameplay loop is that you run and you launch yourself off of bumps in the ground. The height of your launch depends on multiple different things, mainly your current speed and the size of the slope. You then gain speed while descending, and if you land correctly on a slope, or use one of the many tools that you have access to, you gain a massive burst of speed. That's the entire core of the gameplay. Now, I know that this sounds super simple, because it is, but it's the way that the game executes and iterates on these ideas that makes it into something really special. The levels that you run through are randomly generated. The theme and setting are all linked to the specific world, or shard, that you're in. However, the geometry itself is mostly randomly generated. The generation can feel a little funky at times, but it's never so unfair that it'll make a jump become literally impossible to clear. The more you play, the more you'll start to understand the world generation. There's generally areas that the game will stick between their slopes that you'll begin to recognize. The higher the level of the shard, the more courses you have to finish before you can reach the final boss, and the faster that you have to go so that you can outrun the end of the universe. I feel like I missed a point earlier. The game's plot is pretty simple, with it being told through conversations between the different characters. The world is ending, and you need to run in order to find a way to stop it. The game didn't really hook me that well at the start, but I will say it's absolutely worth reading everything, because the ending is absolutely amazing. The only downside I have is that if you're beating the game faster than the story expects, the game will start freaking out and throw extremely important conversations to you back to back, meaning that every level you do will be interrupted by someone having a chat with you before you can start the next one. It gives the story a very staggered pace. You'll blitz through a level and then you'll spend that same amount of time talking to someone about the plot before then going back into another level. If the last few shards of story weren't as good as they were, it would get really annoying, and definitely in some of the earlier shards, it does. Thankfully, though, the story is not the main seller of the game. The gameplay is. The gameplay loop is extremely addictive once you get the fundamentals down. Flying through a level and forcing yourself to make micro adjustments in order to swerve past an obstacle at the last second is super satisfying. And the game tries to subtly push you in ways to play that make you feel awesome. We should probably get to the bit that some of you have been wondering about. The roguelike elements. After beating harder levels or finding yourself at a shop, you'll be able to get unique items that change the way that you play. Now, generally, roguelikes are defined by how their items affect their gameplay. Some games have extremely powerful items that interact with other items in crazy ways, to the point where the build that you have is more defining than the choices you make before going into a game. Whereas other games rely less on the items that you get in the middle of the run, and generally focus on upgrades and choices that you make before you start the run. Haste is very much part of the latter group, with most items not being massively impactful to your overall performance, and acting more as a bonus to help you gain extra speed or stay in the game for longer after you take damage. Most items interact with your stats in some way, giving you some health, some energy, or a boost of speed if certain conditions are met. There are also just some items that affect your character in different and weird ways. Items interact with each other if they activate their beginning conditions. For example, if you have an item that generates sparks, and then you have another item that heals you every time you get a spark, that first item's effect will trigger the second's. This means that you're able to make very simple builds around how the items interact with each other. But if you're looking for build crafting on the level of something like Binding of Isaac or Balatro, you may be sorely disappointed. Personally though, I prefer it this way. It feels like your own personal skills play a more impactful role than the build that you have. Obviously, having a good build makes the game easier, but even if you don't have any items that you want, it doesn't mean that the run's over. You just literally have to play better. This is partly because the core of the game is so good, but it's also because of the abilities that you're able to use. You have access to 4 separate tools, all of which allow you to augment your movement and speed in different ways. The one that you start with is Zoe's hoverboard, which grants you a burst of speed anytime that you use it. It's extremely useful for gaining a bunch of momentum when you perfectly land on a slope, as well as increasing the distance of your jumps. You also have access to a parachute, a grappling hook, and the ominous hourglass. The parachute gives you a quick burst of speed upwards, making it possible to save yourself if you fall, as well as making it easier to line yourself up with bigger slopes. The grappling hook is absolutely peak and awesome and cool and awesome and cool and awesome. It works how you would expect it to work. You attach yourself to an object in the environment and it becomes your new anchor point, allowing you to rotate around it. You build up speed as you close in on it, and you slow down once you get too far away from it. It's useful for a bunch of things. I like to extend my jumps by swinging around on the trees like Spider-Man, and making sure that I get perfect landings by skinning across the floor like Spider-Man. It can be a little finicky at times, and has definitely led to my death, but for every fling to your death, there'll be a time where you do something awesome and think, hell yeah, I did that. Finally, we have the ominous hourglass, which slows down time on use and gives you a boost of speed depending on how long you held it down for. This is probably the best item in the game. All of these elements combine to make an amazing speed experience that makes me want to do another run every time I think about the game. In fact, hold up. Okay, we're good. There's only one thing in the game that I really don't like. The bosses. At the end of every run, you have to fight a boss in order to clear the shard. There's only 3 bosses in the game that repeat and scale in difficulty, and they all kinda suck. But aside from that, I absolutely adore this game. Yes, it's nothing massive. It's not going to be the next big blockbuster, but it's just fun. And most importantly, it's fucking cheap. It takes a concept that others have failed to execute and makes it play almost flawlessly. Once you get into that flow state and begin chaining perfect landings over and over and over again, going at hundreds of meters per second, and getting high ranks on stages back to back to back, it's absolutely amazing. Go check it out if you're interested and have the time. And if you have any other games that are similar in concept to this, please let me know. I'm always on the hunt for really fast games. This game is receiving the highest honor that I can give it, becoming one of the games that I play when I'm procrastinating doing work and just want to kill some time, because it's awesome and cool and awesome. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.